It's a Track Stitch podcast coming up. Shano and I have a great pod for you today as we look back on the record-breaking action of a week ago at the New Balance Indoor Grand Prix. We're going to also take a look at the Millrose games that are happening tomorrow, as well as the Terrier Invite, with the Summer of Sams continuing their reign of excellence. We're also going to do a tribute to one of the great athletes of yesteryear, as well as look at the debut over 800 metres of Femke Bol and some comments from the one and only Jakob Ingebrigtsen. All that and more, but first, you guys know the drill. It is, as always, the Track Stitch Band.
It's the track.
Okay, recording the podcast January the 31st here, back Shano in the Pacific Northwest, the fresh air of Oregon. You're at the Track Stitch headquarters. Has the weather improved?
We've had like one day of good weather in January, and it was on the 31st, but it was a fabulous day yesterday, mate.
All right, awesome. Hey, we've got to get into it because we got so much to talk about. I'm really looking forward to this podcast. So much to talk about. You would never think so, given the fact that it's kind of the European track season, winter, but so much going on indoors, athletes making comments. We've got a special, as we do here on the People's Podcast, one of the great athletes that was an athlete of the people in the early 2000s. We're going to do a bit of a tribute to him today. You mentioned him last week. We'll just save that for when it comes up. But kicking us off, we've got a bit of an early mailbag here. And the first question came in. It was like just for me, but I'll tell you what it was. JS, were you wearing a Kenny Loggins t-shirt last week on the podcast? And I actually was wearing a Kenny Loggins t-shirt. So I hope there's no sentiment of Kenny Loggins slander out there. One of the great singers, yacht rock superstar. Are you a Loggins fan?
Am I?
Yeah.
I don't even know who he is.
What? What, the guy who sang like Danger Zone, the Top Gun theme music. Oh Jesus, Shane, you've exposed yourself.
Cultural.
All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, I was wearing a Kenny Loggins t-shirt. Hey, this is a good one. I've got an early quiz challenge for you. I'm springing this on you. This was one from one of our avid super fans. Because last week we said we were the number one podcast for men aged 50 to 55 born in Timaru. And a question from the great Swanee came in. It's like, do you know who Timaru Boys High School's most decorated track and field athletes are? And there's two in particular that have been global gold medalists. Do you know the answer to this?
Is Craig Kirkwood one of them?
No, well, not unless Craig won a secret global gold medal somewhere. But no disrespect to Craig. He's a great coach.
Was he Timaru Boys High School?
I don't know if he was Timaru Boys, but I know he's in Timaru. Was he? Yeah, possibly.
He ran the Comms Game Marathon, right? He ran 2:30.
Well,
2:30.
Yeah, okay.
Timaru Boys. Okay.
Do you know? So, full disclosure, I knew one of them immediately, and I was like half in on the other one. I had to check it to confirm. So I got 1.5 here. Do you know?
So did you say 2 global medals?
Yes.
Timaru Boys High School. Global medals. Oh, so you have to go back. No, I don't know.
Yeah. So the first one is Tom Walsh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I did. So I had a sneaking suspicion it might have been. I just did like the sort of South Island connection. I had to check. But the other one I definitely knew because I read his book a long time ago, Jack Lovelock.
Oh, Lovelock. Of course.
Timaru Boys High School. Yeah, apparently there's a tree planted on the school premises commemorating Lovelock. So there you go.
Wow.
Only Swanee would know that, like legend. So I got 1.5 and
I flamed out.
I'm ahead already. The other one came in, it was just sort of a question. It's like, how do you guys come up with such excellent content on a weekly basis? Do you have a team of writers that are putting together all this world-class track and field banter and analysis? The answer is no. Actually, our process is quite advanced. So on about Thursday or Friday, we have a text message chain just saying, should we talk about this? And then somehow it all works out. And
well, it's all about not with the word "not" in brackets, not monetizing your passion, right? That's what we're doing. We're out there. We're not able to monetize it, but we're out there.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Shall we just get right into everything that's going on right now? In typical Track Stitch fashion, we did the podcast about an hour before the New Balance. Well, actually, by the time we finished, the New Balance meet last week had actually started in Boston. Cam Myers had already run 7:27.57 to become only the fourth human ever under the age of 20 to break 7:30 for 3K. I did see that Eliud Kipchoge is one of the names, so I'm not quite sure how legit or valid that potential list is. But we do know that he's definitely under the age of 20. 7:27.57. And of course, the other two big ones were the world records from Hobbs Kessler and Josh Hoey. What do you think? What was your most impressive result coming out of that meet? I mean, those are the three real massive performances. There were some great performances also on the women's side. ESP won the 3K, but really two world records and a big sub 7:30. What was your most or your favorite performance?
Well, my first thing I'm going to do is piss in my own pocket because you asked me what I thought of Cole's 452.9, and I think that put it in context as to the level. Not that it was a bad run from Cole, but yeah, 448. And I actually think they could have run. I think Hobbs could have run 446 high that day. The way he ran that, I think if there'd been paces and Fisher without Fisher, he wouldn't have run as fast as he did. So I'm not denouncing Fisher at all. But yeah, I mean, Hoey's run was the one for me. I mean, that's for the reasons we'd gone into pretty good detail on, and Jonathan Galt went into great detail on Let's Run. And yes, you can say wave light, and yes, you can say it's 20 years later, but
still got to
given
do it.
Yeah, and also given how much of an anomaly Wilson's time was, even though Wilson was not at that stage where he was peaking per se, he's the GOAT or equal GOAT, first equal, it's like the Jordan LeBron thing. And to beat his record in round 152.50, phenomenal job of pacing. What did I say?
152.50.
That's my personal best. No, I'm a little bit quicker than that. But sorry, 142.50. So I was a bit of a rush this morning. I left my swipe card behind, and I've only just got the old caffeination. I'm a little bit, yeah.
That's all right.
So, but back to Josh Hoey. Incredible job from his brother, and also massive props to him because we've been a bit critical of the slightly skittish, at least from the outside looking, firing the coach and the way he's gone about things. But he won that mile. Looked superb doing it in Hawaii, beat a whole lot of top pros over the 1,500 mile distance. He was very controlled through, but tucked in behind his brother, didn't get too far up his ass, and then that third lap he pressed, but he didn't get the old spaghetti arms going and go overboard. And I love the way he meted out his effort. And then he's not running. I see now that mile, which I think I saw a comment on a text exchange with a few of us that you thought was actually eminently sensible. He's like, he's shot a shot and he is not just going to race himself into the ground. So, hey, hats off to the guy. I mean, if he does nothing else, he's won a Diamond League, he's run 142 flat. He has got the world indoor record. Wilson Kipchoge's world indoor record over 800 meters. So, if he did nothing else, and I hope that's not the case for him, fair play.
Yeah. So, I agree with everything you said. I mean, that's the only way you can rank it. The two world records, obviously, 7:27. It's crazy to think now that I mean, even just imagine 10 years ago, someone running 7:27 indoors, let alone a kid from Australia under the age of 20, would have been losing our minds. Now it's almost like it's kind of like, oh yeah, someone ran 7:27 for 3K indoors. It doesn't, it's great, but it doesn't register on the same level. The first interesting thing about that 2K, and I agree with you, because
having said that about Myers, like building on my comments the week before with this, watching this 349, the way he did it was impressive, and there's more in the tank there. And the way he took apart those fields in both those instances was highly impressive. So I think that was probably, as opposed to just the abstract raw data of running 727, it's not like there was 6 of them running 27, 28, and he eked out a win. He
destroyed them.
Dominant. So that could bode well for the coming year for Cam Myers. Well, it does bode well for Cam Myers. Yeah.
But so back to that 2K, as it was going off, I saw the lights racing ahead of the field, and I'm like, oh my God, what are they doing? They're totally, this pacemaker's botched it. Why is he not going with the pace? And then I saw after maybe 4 or 5 laps, the lights had been completely turned off. And Jonathan Galt from Let's Run, who was there, he said that what had happened is that they set the lights wrong to go off at like 54 pace, right? So the pacemaker actually, he does an all-time job here, because these days, like as someone who did a little bit of pacing on the European circuit, as you know, I did quite a few big 1500 race, 800 races. It's so difficult to get it right, and there's a lot of pressure on you, especially in those big races when potential world records or American records are on. So he loses this massive benefit of wave light, which he's probably been setting up, and in his mind he's like, hey, all I got to do is stick on this top light, etc. They go flying off in front of him, and I can only imagine when you're out there, he must have been like, what the fuck is happening here? I feel like I'm running the right speed, but am I not, etc. So all this thing flying around, and he ends up doing a fantastic job to get those guys through. And Kessler just looks supreme. Fisher did what he had to do to try and run it out of him, but I think it's just too short. I think there's, you talk about boding well for Myers with that 3K. What does this mean for Kessler moving forward? Because he had a bit of a disappointing season last year. He made that Olympic team in 24 in the 8 and 15, ran one of the best executed 800s. And we'll talk about Hoey's one in a second, at the trials in the semi-final, when he ran like 143.6, and then had a bit of a disappointing year last year. But this sets up Kessler quite well for this year, man. I mean, 448 indoors, breaking a record of another legendary athlete, and I'm going to talk about that at the end. So sets up pretty good for Hobbs.
Yeah, because he's historically been very good over 800. He's got the body type of an 815 guy.
Yes.
So 2K is a little bit just in the over distance bracket for him.
Right.
I mean, we could see a high 142, low 143, 328 this year. And he
looks so good.
He looked superb. He always looked like he was going to win. Yeah, no, I think it bodes really well. Hey, props to Grant Fisher too. I mean, he's a distance runner, and 449. I mean, if Hobbs hadn't been there, he conceivably could be the 2K world record holder, Bekele's record, no less.
Right. Totally.
He's really, and he just got in. Did he engage or marry? I don't really follow social media. I got sick of it a year ago, but he's looks like a really good dude, very balanced, very sensible, mature, and like 449 indoors for 2K boats. Is he going to the roads? That's what I think I saw something about that.
I think he's running a half marathon coming up in the spring, which is...
The quote was something along the lines of not wanting to be 35 and being sort of busted out when he goes to the roads.
Yeah. And so obviously the big performance, as you said, was the world record from Hoey, expunging this awesome record of Kip Keita's. And you're right, like all the circumstances have changed now. There's a lot more focus on running indoors than there was in the past. We know that Josh Hoey is an extremely motivated character to go out and do this, but you've still got to do it. And I agree with you. This was the best executed race that I've seen Hoey run. I mean, he was a little bit out of control on that 600, which actually cost him beating Johnny Gray's all-time mark. And that's over 600 too, which is far more difficult to run indoors because the speed you're running on the tight bends. I think when you get to the 800, the speed is just slowing down ever so slightly that it's not massively disadvantageous for you to run indoors, as we saw with Kip Keita. It's always just been an issue of the guys peaking. But I mean, a fantastic job there. I haven't seen him run so measured and hold his form together. His brother did a great job, but again, you see the power of wave light there. It was always in that periphery. You could almost see him looking down to the left, as you've seen Faith do, as you've seen Jakob do in these big events. So that's why he was able to be so, I guess, so precise with his timing, his splits, and yeah. But it was kind of weird. Like as he was coming up to the finish line, I don't know if you noticed, it looked like he was a little bit back off the bubble, and I was like, oh man, he's going to miss it he's going to run like 1:42.8, and selfishly I was like, that's what I kind of predicted he would run, so I'm going to look like a genius here. But then he crossed the line. Apparently, it's the back of the bubble which is the world record. So they give them like the full. So as long as you can stay in that bubble, you're good. Which is what he did. He kind of crept towards the back of it, but he was still a tenth of a second inside of it.
Yeah, and I agreed with you. I thought he'd narrowly miss it as well. And I think, well, I mean, it appeases our egos, but putting that aside, I think it's a testament to how successfully he executed his race that he did it. Because if he'd run it with in the same manner, he'd have run that 600, he likely would have blown up that last 50 or 80 meters, just throwing the literal proverbial kitchen sink at it. But by being measured, he ran right through that last 50, 80 meters and got the record.
Yeah. And yeah, we can talk about Millrose in a second, but I did have one other interesting stat, and this is why people come to the Track Stitch podcast, the people's podcast, for stats and quirky data like this one. A bit of a sad moment there for, I guess, old school track buffs like you and I. Do you know why it was sad? Any idea? There were two names that were expunged from the record books, and do you know the significance of that?
What, over in those races?
Yes. Well, obviously you know the two names are expunged, but do you know what the I guess the greater implication was of those names disappearing from the record books?
No.
So those were the last two records that Wilson Kipketer and Kenesisi Bikila held on a world level. So those names are now...
Well, that might be it, Jason, but I thought you were going to trick me with one of your...
No.
That's too obvious ones.
Yeah. But it is. So a sad moment for us as Wilson Kipketer, obviously his 800 meters was taken back in 2009 by Rudisha. This indoor world record seemed like it would last forever just because nobody really would challenge it, and then along comes a special character. But the real interesting one is Bikili, because, you know, Wilson obviously an 800 meter specialist, but Bikili held all these records like over 2K. You know, he held the 5K indoors, the 5 outdoors, the 10 outdoors, so many world records. And now Kenesisi Bikila, as of last weekend, thanks to Hobbs Kessler, is now fully eliminated from the World Athletics or IAAF world record roster or book.
There you go.
That's what you come to the podcast for. And I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm right about that, but
you will be.
Somebody's going to look it up and go, no, he holds the indoor something, and I'll look like an idiot. But anyway, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Millrose coming up. Yeah, a little bit of the mile loses a little bit of its impetus without Hoey there, but you know, as you mentioned, I think it's probably going to be good for him longer term. I don't know how bad the injury is. I was going to ask Justin, but I thought, nah, it's fine because he's still heavily involved in terms of advising Josh. But I think long term, Hoey's done everything that he wants to do.
They're still like talking quite a bit then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just advice. I mean, I don't think Justin, he's not obviously coaching more, but they still chat just on a friendship level and everything. So everything's cool there, which is nice. But don't know how injured he actually is. But I think it's probably a good idea anyway, as you said. Even if he's not, like, just to come off that emotional high, and he's now run the world record over the 600, this 800, which he really wanted. He doesn't really have anything to gain running the mile. I don't think he's going to run under 3:45. Right? Well, we say that, and then he may have done so, but yeah. Anyway, so he's out. But the big one, of course, tomorrow going off is this 2-mile race. Have you got a favorite there?
So are these races tomorrow, New Zealand, tomorrow your time, are they? Sunday?
Yes. So Millrose is tomorrow, and the BU Terrier Invite, which we'll talk about in a second, is coming out this afternoon.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the 2-mile. Fisher, Kerr, Hocker, Jake Whiteman's in there too. It's just an absolutely loaded field. There was an article that Jonathan wrote on Let's Run about just like some guy, some bigger stat nerd than you or I went in and figured out that there hasn't been a race with like so many combined global champions in it for such a long time, and they're clashing over this 2 mile. Any thoughts on that one? Who's your favourite there?
Well, I was just thinking maybe everyone's kind of an unknown. I was thinking Fisher, but Fisher really can't kick with those guys, and the chances of being far enough ahead to hold them off is still not very far. So put it this way, the way I'd look at it is Fisher would be, if I was setting odds, if I was a bookmaker, Fisher would be my best bet for a top 2 out of everyone. Most because he's run 4:49.
Very consistent.
Kerr's an unknown to me.
Yeah.
Cole there or thereabouts, and I saw him in some commentary saying that he, it's an off year, so you can throw the kitchen sink at it. I just don't know if his temperament, if you can say that, but I just think he's a little terrier that gets up and comes off the shoulder when it's all on the line. And I don't know if this is a big enough, going on his historical results, a big enough event for him to channel that subconscious desire to win and the shape he's in, the way he trains. I don't know about him. Yeah, who else is there? Sorry, there's Fisher, Hocker. Whiteman's out. Whiteman's out.
Yeah, he's not. Exactly. Kai Robinson's running from Australia. I don't think he's quite at the level of...
Let's Run did a good job, which I largely had to agree with, ranking them from 13 to 1 in terms of...
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, that was I pretty much agreed with that.
But the one I just couldn't wrap my head around was Josh Kerr as kind of like the favourite. Here's a guy he's not quite in the same boat as Fisher, I believe. He's definitely getting a little bit older. I mean, and this is the thing, like the age of these guys like kind of sneak up on us, right? As it does with all the greats, you see them in their prime, you're like, man, these guys are going to run great forever. It's the same with Jakob. It seemed like only yesterday we were talking about him as this teenage phenom, and next minute he's 25 years of age or turning 25, and you're like, wow, this guy's not as young. And Josh Kerr, I believe, is either 28 or turning 28 this year. And I know that's not old in a human sense, but it seems to be in the world of track and field, where it's just, it's so tough to stay relevant. I mean, I find it hard to bet against Hocker. I think last year he really wanted to win that 3K in Millrose, and it hurt him a bit that he didn't, that Fisher beat him. And I think his comments are sort of angling towards him really wanting to get the win in this one, because whoever wins the race, they're going to smash this world record, right? The current world record is like 8:00.6, or is that right? Or 8:01. It's 8 minutes or 8:01. That was Josh Kerr in 2024. And they're probably going to run 7:55, 7:56 tomorrow, do you think?
I don't know.
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah.
Why don't you think they're going to run that? Or do you think they're going to run under 8?
Maybe, if close. Yeah. I just have this belief that when you put so many, it's like the NBA when they put all these great players on a team and they bring them in and they just fizzle. Like you put that many good guys in a race like that.
We talk about over the 800, where the positioning, finding positioning on the track is so much more important, and that causes you to do things that compromise your long-term potential in the race.
Drop out, and there are all these guys sniffing around, and it can lag, and it turns into just a burn up in the last. I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion about it. It also wouldn't shock me the way everything's going these days if they ran 7:55. But I don't know.
All right. Well,
just regarding runs take on Kerr, that's all right. It's just a quick one on Kerr. I mean, I feel like they kind of put it there in lieu of any. They put it there in lieu of any real other compelling athlete or reason to rank someone number one. I feel like it should have all just been like bracketed as most likely. I don't agree he's the strong favorite. If he had the shape if the world champs incident hadn't happened last year,
right,
I would have said he absolutely is the favorite. But I just
I'm still surprised by that because Cole Hocker's run the time over 3K. He's run 7:23. He's faster over 1500. He's run 3:27. He's run 7:23. And then that 2K record last week, yes, we know it got kind of exposed by Kessler, but I don't think he really cared about it that much because I think he cares more about this particular race. I think he's an overwhelming, at least in my mind, I wouldn't say overwhelming, but I would be stunned if he didn't win, right? I'm going to be stunned. And I think he can handle Fisher this year. I think Fisher probably last year, he was in career shape indoors last year. He ran that 12:44 in the Boston meet. Anyway, that's what I think is going to happen, but we'll see. It's going to be a great race. It's awesome.
It will. I mean, just to play devil's advocate to that, Fisher just ran 4:49 under the Achilles 2K world record.
Yeah.
Fisher beat him last year and ran 7:22 American record. And Cole had a great year. Was coming off the 3:27 5 months earlier to win the Olympic 1500 and couldn't outkick Fisher, who's not a great kicker, at 3K, which says to me, Hocker perhaps that kick isn't there when he's maxed out an aerobic threshold over, say, 2, 3, 5K races. Whereas the way he won that World Champs 5,000, which lags more, I think he's got more ability to turn the afterburners on because he's further away, further more under his threshold. So given Fisher was able to outkick him, isn't let's be honest, a great kicker over last year when they were running at their max, that makes me think, say, a Kerr or someone like that could come over the top of him. Yeah, but maybe it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
It'll be another sports betting syndicate internal bet.
I know. Okay. All right. So moving on from Millrose, we do have action today that the BU Terrier Invite. The Summer of Sams continue. Both of them are running in the Elite Mile. That is going to go down, I believe. Let's have a look. What do we got here? 11:13. Probably another couple of hours, I think.
Okay.
So, man, this is going to be an interesting one here. One of the fastest running surfaces, maybe the fastest track surface in the world, indoors or out. Such an interesting story. There's a great article that was written by a guy called Jeff Burns. So for all our listeners out there who haven't seen this one, all the tens and tens of listeners out there, if you haven't seen this one, you should Google it. I can't remember the title, but he explains in detail why this track is so fast in BU. Have you done any research into this one? Do you know this stuff?
You've supplied me tidbits over the years. This is a real thing for you.
Yeah, I'm such a nerd when it comes to this kind of stuff. The track is basically built in the old school fashion on a plywood substrate, right? So plywood is very springy. Most modern tracks are either laid over the top of like a metal frame or poured concrete. So it's like that resilience or flexibility in the boards. And the other really cool thing as well is like the corners or the turns are asymmetric. So they're not like perfectly equal radius as you go around the corner. And so that means that the high point of the curve isn't in the middle of the curve. And the logic was that you building this momentum coming off the straight, and then you use that speed to kind of get up to the high point quicker, and then you can sort of start your quote-unquote descent down from the corner as you've already slowed down. So it's a lot of minutia in terms of the theory, but the reality is that this track is unbelievably fast. This was a track that Jomef Kajelka broke the world indoor mile record back in 2019 when he wasn't even really a miler. Might have done that for other reasons. He was training with Salazar at the time. But either way, this is like a historically fast track. Nagoose went there last year to try and break the indoor mile record or take it back off Jakob. After he'd broken it in Millrose, Jakob broke it in Liven. He came back, still ran like 3:47. Man, these guys could really go fast today. Do we have any predictions around young Sam Ruthe? A lot of hype on social media you were telling me about earlier. Yeah, they're upping this. This is a bit of a social media journey. I wouldn't be surprised, mate, if he runs. I think he could run like 3:51.8 to 3:52.5 today on this bloody surface. It's so fast.
I think he can run faster.
Oh,
I think he can run low 3:51 or 3:50.8. I mean, it's the perfect theatre for it. I mean,
yeah,
that, like I said, if you just forget the age and forget the hype around this kid, you just put another athlete into that Wanganui setting and they run 3:53.8 the way he did it. You go to BU, and for the reasons you just explained about the track and the focus of the track world, so to speak, which it is on him. Yeah, and he's in the shape of his life, 145, running that mile there, the 217, the Summer of Sam, as you always call it.
Yeah.
I mean, why not? And then absolutely. Why not run really low, 351, 350?
And it's going to be the first race. Like, this is a wave light paced race with a pacemaker. So for the first time, at least this year, he's going to have legit pacemaking, not somebody hearing out super fast. No disrespect to the young pacemakers in New Zealand, but they don't have wave light. And so they're going to have wave light there in BU. I think the pace is set up, I believe, 152 through 800. Because shout out to one of the guys I know, Cooper Cawthorne. He's running in the second race there in the mile, which is going through in 154. So man, they are setting this up to go extremely fast. I mean, God, that sounds really fast. 152. That's like
he might do an equivalent. What would he have to do to for the proportionate level of shock and awe for Webb's performance? I mean, he'd have to run 3:49, wouldn't he, for the same level of kind of.
I don't know. I think if he ran under 3:51, that would just be like, that would be crazy. I mean, 3:49 would be out of this world. I also heard that Cam Myers said he wouldn't be surprised if Sam ran 3:49. Do you hear that one?
No, but I as we've talked about it, I hadn't thought about it a lot until we've got on here. I saw some of, like, as you called it, like the hype on social media, but like it wouldn't shock me. Put it this way, I wouldn't see it and be like, how the hell did that happen? You know?
Yeah.
What shocked me the most with him, with two races a year ago, the 151, and even his dad was like, "Oh my God, what's he doing?" And he was a lot smaller then too. He's definitely developed a lot in the last 12 months. To hold on and not absolutely brick it in the last 150 when he was a kid still, but the 146 was when everything changed for me. And I'd always he was awesome, but then I saw that, I was like, "Oh my God,
yes,
that's mind blowing."
That was out of this world. 10 a.m. in the morning down at the old sport
after
park
running 3:38 the night before on his own, with no pacing. So
I agree.
After
that was a mind blower for me too.
Yeah. So after that, nothing really would shock me. I mean, who knows?
Okay. Well, we're going to find out. I mean, last week we said we'd do an emergency podcast if the world records came in at New Balance, and we just didn't. So sorry for anybody that was hanging on for that expert analysis. We leave that to the other guys, because one of the value propositions of the Track Stitch podcast, the People's Podcast, is that we go back in time and look at some of the great athletes of yesteryear. Once again, we're the kings of Segway, Shane, because that takes us into our next segment. I thought last week when the subject of Buster Mottram, Craig Mottram beating Bekele, actually one of your quiz questions sort of tied in there. Was that part of your quiz question?
It was,
yeah. I thought, what a perfect time, given the resurgence of Western athletes, white athletes over the longer distances, because maybe for some of the younger viewers out there, I know we're an emerging market for the younger listeners on the Track Stitch podcast. It's kind of hard to put into context just how rare it was for athletes from New Zealand, Australia, the UK to be prominent in distance running back when, we were in our teens and 20s. Right, I mean, there are
when Mottram won that medal, third at the 2005 World Champs.
Yes,
he was the first white athlete, Western athlete, since 1987 to win a medal at the 5,000.
Look at you! I had that all teed up, but you're just ahead of the bell curve, Shade. We definitely didn't. Here's a question for you though: Who were the athletes in that race that did it?
In 1987.
Yeah, do you know? If you get this would be incredibly impressive.
Who won that race? Yeah, 1987. Weed Eater wasn't. He didn't. No, it wasn't Weed Eater.
No.
But
who were the white athletes? So in second place, it was Domingos Castro, and second from Portugal.
Yeah.
I guess he counts, but not really. Maybe. Jack Buckner got the bronze medal. Jack Buckner from the UK got the bronze medal, and that was the last medal at a World Championships until 2005. Of course, we had Dieter Baumann in 1996, but yeah, it was so rare. So anyway, I thought this would be a great opportunity for us to take a look. So I briefed the Track Stitch technical team. I've got another treat for you here. And Dieter
was 92, by the way, just making sure we're disseminating.
That's right. I know I wrote it on my paper here. You're right. I got that wrong. That was stupid. Dieter 1992. But it was just so rare to have an athlete. And so I think what we'll do is we'll play some of these Craig Mottram greatest hits, and we can talk over and just talk about some of these races and what he meant to the sport, because it was such a big deal for athletes from New Zealand, from Australia. He was known as the Big Mzungo. He was the only sort of white athlete in the distance running sort of stratosphere that the Kenyans really feared and respected at the time. And some of these races will show that perfectly. So let's tee this up. Shout out to the Track Stitch technical team. I'm going to add you. There you go. Okay. So what I did is I put together maybe the Mount Rushmore of Craig Mottram's sort of performances starting in 2004. And I think we'll just have a bit of a yarn about the great Buster Mottram. So this is Crystal Palace 2004. This is the big showdown with Geb, mate. Remember this one?
Yep.
And this is the first time that Craig actually broke 13 minutes for 5K. And just look at him, just take it to Gebre Selassie here. This was such an awesome race. I think he'd been pretty close in Bislett early in the season, run like 13:03, just super motivated to get it done here.
This is the race where Geb described him afterwards as the long guy.
Yeah, well, you can see why. But look at Geb. He's got the classic Geb grin going on here with 200 to go. Like, he is maxed out, and obviously this was not Geb at his absolute best, but he was still pretty damn good.
Still Geb.
Shout out to the Track Stitch band for the
accompanying
track behind there. But Geb, just that classic like turnover. You get the size difference there. But yeah, 12:55.76, first time under 13 minutes. He was 8th in Athens, 13:25.70, which was a huge deal just to have white guy in the final and to sort of finish top 8. Goes over to Maury Plant, boom. And a year later, Shano, this is the race that you were just referencing. 2005 Helsinki World Champs. This is with a lap to go in a slow race, 12:38 at the bell. And just look at that field. That's what we're talking about. You see Marius back in there at the back from Norway. But this was just like status quo.
He's backing out, isn't he?
He's
going nowhere fast.
But look at this. Like,
if you look at Marius back in there, that's what happened, our generation.
Yes.
All our droves of young fans. That's what happened at every championship or Diamond League. When they put the blowtorch down, the white guys just got blown to smithereens. And look at this guy. It was a revelation. Totally.
Just mixing it up. I mean, this was, like you said, this was such a huge deal. Not since 1987 had, a Western athlete medaled in the 5,000 meters at the World Champs. He looks buried here. Limo comes by for the win, but look at this final push.
That was just awesome.
And you know who you're going to see it on the close-up? The man that he sort of blows through on the inside, because I'm pretty sure this has got a close-up at the finish. Do you know who that is in third that he beats?
Oh, Limo is second, right?
No, he won.
Oh, is Elliot?
It was.
Oh, Limo won it, did he?
Limo won it, yeah. But look at Kipchoge falling apart at the finish, looking on the outside, and Buster's just like...
Wingo comes through. And
I know. This was awesome. And of course, Kipchoge was the reigning world champion at this point.
He was.
This was awesome. I was sitting down at the 100-meter mark there, 12:32.96. I was sitting down at the 100-meter mark when this happened, and God, it was awesome. Like, really, really exciting.
There's a real lineup of stars of days gone by, and there Tariku Pakali, there was Ali Saif.
Yes. And onto this race here, which really probably one of the great races in Commonwealth Games history. It's definitely up there with the Walker by showdown in 1974. This moment here where Mottram goes by Choge, there was 87,000 people in the stand just going absolutely mental, and it just didn't stop. And yeah, I mean, this is just such an awesome performance. This was kind of peak.
Second fastest time at the time ever in a championship 5,000. There was the low 1250s in the 2003 World Champs with Bekele, Kipchoge, and Algarouge, and then this was the second, I believe.
And it's still one of the fastest. And I think that this is even faster than Hock. This might be number 2, actually, still all time.
Because the record before that for World Champs was Salah Hisu ran 12:58, I believe, or 12:57 high in 1999 to win in Seville.
That's
Remember
right.
That? Yeah.
But yeah, this was just an awesome performance. Of course, Mottram.
Well, Buster had a bit of the old Ron Clark going on, with in terms of being able to change gears. But that was a phenomenal run from Choge.
Yes.
Isn't it? I mean, he later showed his Augustine Choge, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. He later showed his chops, the type of athlete he was, that to beat Mottram in that manner. What did he run? 143?
But I think he won a 1500 at like Berlin or something like that and beat a lot of those guys. He ran like 330 or 3. And you just see there that this is a good shot there of those guys. This is the respect that the Kenyan athletes had for him. Now this is the race that you were referencing,
Jason, or 144 at least. Because I remember there was a hoop player over it. Yeah,
this is the race that I think you were talking about that spurned the tech team to put this together. This is the 2006 World Cup of Athens. I was down under the stadium getting ready to come out and run 149. Looked like a turkey out there, but this was also, not quite peak Bekele, but still very, very dominant over 5K. He didn't lose a lot of races back then. And look at Mottram here, just take it to him down the back straight.
This is before the 2008 5,000, arguably peak Bekele. So, yeah.
Yes. Well, yeah, I mean, he'd run the world, but in terms of times, he'd run that world record in 04 and didn't run much faster. But just look at the way that Mottram destroys him here. You did not see this very often back in the day. And again, we're so spoilt now by seeing guys like Cole Hocker and Jakob, and then Jimmy Gressier this year, and then you even go back to, I mean, look at this. Absolutely waxed him.
Yep.
Bekele just gave up, walked across the line. Good mullet there too for Mottram.
Buster.
How was that? Buster.
Legend.
Yeah, I mean, again, we take for granted now. We see all these great athletes, and it's kind of kicked off sort of in the late 2000s. But with guys like Chris Zielinski, Matt Tegenkamp coming to the fore. But it was really Craig that I think put this sense of belief into the top distance runners from Australia, from New Zealand to a degree, but especially the States and the UK. He was such an important figure, wasn't he?
You remember how? Was it Wazeem, and I think was it David Hooks, his former Australian cricket coach, said that Martin Crowe they both said Martin Crowe was the best batsman they'd ever seen in terms of raw technique. And I remember, was his name John O'Connell, the Arkansas coach, who's more of a distance coach. And when he retired, they asked him who was the best athlete he'd ever seen. He said, the best athlete I've ever seen in the flesh run is Tyson Gay. Yeah. And I went and watched some Tyson Gay races from that period of Bolt, and I could see what he means in terms of how he looks. Well, for me, the best athlete I ever saw run live was Craig Mottram. I mean, it was relatable because I was 17 or something at the time over in Melbourne. He was, I believe, only 18 or 19, and he ran 3:35, Yeah. And we grew up looking up to, like we talked about, our mate Clody or Adrian Blinko, or people like yourself, Jason, who are just awesome athletes. But when you're from little old New Zealand and you don't get out and see the big wide world, going and seeing a guy who's 8 months or a year older than you running 3:35 in a Diamond League, just the way he moved his body, and that 5,000 when he sprinted with those top Africans who could not only run 12:50 but change gears and run like a 3:30 man over the last 600 or 800. one of the best athletes I've definitely in the flesh, but one of the best athletes I've ever seen, and definitely a massive inspiration for my fledgling career in my early to mid-20s. Like, he had that rock star vibe too. He had a bit more of the John Walker vibe than many of the other, I don't want to say milquetoast, but slightly more watered down personalities of the last sort of 2 decades. Whereas Walker had that sort of ramshackle, the big flowing locks, and that irreverent kind of have spikes, will race. I'm not worried. I'll take on all comers.
Yes.
He brought a bit of that sort of machismo back to the track, and it was super exciting when there was, Mottram was going to race Bekele, or Mottram said he was going to run 3:45 for the mile, or whatever. Some of the things that came out around that, the sort of, how do I put it, the hustle bustle around Craig Mottram as a product. It was very cool.
Yeah, Mottram, I think, was ironically from down under, was the closest thing to Walker that there'd been, because like if you go back into that 60s period where it was Herb Elliott and Peter Snell, they were a lot more gentlemanly, a lot more sort of egalitarian figures so much, and then you had this rock star and Walker, and then there wasn't really anybody with that personality. Maybe Ovett was kind of like that from the UK, and we didn't really have anybody. And then along comes this guy Craig Mottram, like you said, bursts onto the scene in that 1500 at the Grand Prix final. He gets in, I think, as like the local entry, local wild card. It shouldn't really have been there on merit, but then goes out and runs that awesome performance. I mean, one of the greatest performances I ever saw from Buster in person was at the Melbourne Grand Prix just before the Com Games in 06. He ran 450.76 kind of solo in the 2,000 meters, right? Which was under, I believe, Walker's Oceania record.
Nice.
And I mean, this is back in the day, no real elite pacemaking, no wave light. Adrian Blinko, our good mate Adrian, was second in that race. Adrian was a very obviously amazing athlete. Yeah, 4:59 flat, I think. So just Mottram just destroyed everybody that night. And yeah, I mean, in person, you had to be there to see this guy. He was kind of 6'1", 6'2" tall, super rakey. He had that classic mullet going on, which was like the hallmark of Craig at the time, and just a real gnarly personality. He was again. There was we saw the difference with another good mate of ours, Nick Willis, obviously one of the great 1500 meter runners of all time. I'm fine saying that. Nick just ran in different ways, right? A lot more calculated and measured in the ways that he was looking to get medals, and it worked.
Yes.
But Mottram was at his peak, was absolutely fearless to go out and mix it up with the African guys at the front of the race and see what he could potentially do. So just, like total rock star character. And hey, here's another classic story for you about Mottram. For our non-Antipodean viewers, how fast you can bowl a cricket ball is just like one of the all-time great debates down here in New Zealand, right? Who can bowl this far? It's just whatever. It's difficult to explain. I guess the comparison for the American viewers would be how fast can you throw a baseball. But Adrian Blinko told me this great story about Mottram once. They were over in Melbourne watching cricket on the telly, and I think Brett Lee was steaming into bowl, and Binger was bowling about 150, and Mottram was just like, and you'll love this because you'll have a comment to relate it back to me. Mottram was just like totally dismissive of him bowling 150. He's like, that's not a big deal. Like, I could do that if I wanted to. And Adrian, those guys are just laughing, like, whatever. And Mottram's like, no, it's not that hard. Like, of course you could if you actually trained for it. Like, why not? And it was that kind of like attitude where he was just like, doesn't matter. I think he really got it, because to be honest, maybe he wouldn't have bowled as fast as Brett Lee, but the point remained, like, he just looked at things on a very granular level, and there was never any sense of like, I can't do something, right? Yeah. So he was just like, he had no fear saying that he could bowl as good as one of the premier test fast bowlers like of all time. That's such a good story.
I've often thought when you're watching like LeBron, particularly his peak, like going, as they say, downhill on the fast break and the NBA, or when I've watched like Mitchell Starc, who incidentally his brother, Australian cricketer for our American fans out there, Australia's pretty much spearhead fast bowler for the last decade. left-hander, beautiful. When you watch him live at the MCG, which I have done countless times, from the side-on view, when he runs in, he looks like he could be a top class. You obviously have to slim down a bit. 800-meter run. He's got a big, loping, raking stride, and he looks like he purrs him like a Rolls Royce. And his brother is was the Commonwealth Games high jump champion, Mitchell Stark's brother. Yep.
Yeah.
So there is some crossover there. So it's not totally without. So I'm not saying he could have bowled 150. I mean, if he was a sort of 142, 327 guy, I'd say he's got enough fast twitch to do that. But
maybe,
I love the attitude.
Yeah, exactly. I think he was just more, he understood that concept of the kinematic chain. And I think it was more just saying, why is Brett Lee such an advanced athlete? He's not. He's just like a normal guy that just has figured out the kinematic chain of how to bowl fast in the same way that I've figured out the kinematic chain to run fast for long periods of time. And he's absolutely right. But you've got to have that attitude in your mind if you want to be good. I mean, Craig, he never gave me the light of day. I'm sure he thought I was a massive chumpster. I probably was compared to him. But I always looked up to him and thought he was a great athlete. But he definitely had that kind of abrasive personality. I wouldn't say he was the most liked athlete around, but I don't think he gave a shit. And the results showed for on the track.
Guys like that really care at all what they're...
Nah.
It's not part of their DNA. They're not... Yeah. It's just an exigency to them. It's not something they want to waste energy on. That's what makes them the way they are.
Exactly.
So, that's an interesting one. Yeah, I had a point about something to do with. If you watch LeBron James shoot a basketball, it looks like his fadeaway and his step back and all. It looks like it's the most aesthetically pleasing, easy on the eye action. You think the guy is just a total natural. Now he's getting into his golf I've seen on the internet. Swing is so rugged. He wouldn't swing, even though he played his whole life, wasn't great either. It just shows you a lot of it does come down to that repeated practice and mimicking what's gone before you and all those little subtleties of the angles of how your body moves. These guys aren't born able to do what they do. A lot of it is an ascribed thing. Have you
speaking about a James family golf swing, have you seen his son Bronny swing the golf club though?
He's got a lot better. Eh?
He's way better. He's actually really good. I mean, he claimed to have, I think, broken 80. I'm not sure if I necessarily believe that, but he definitely had the swing mechanics of someone that could potentially do that long term, way better than his dad.
Yeah.
But then I guess conversely, he's way worse than his dad at basketball, even now, with his dad being in his mid 40s and him in his young 20s. All right. Yeah. So Craig Mottram, don't know if he's a massive fan of the podcast. Hopefully he might be after the just spoken.
No, he'll do a PC and get sort of the old glory days going and some popcorn and a Coors Light or whatever Craig drinks. Sit down and go, right, I'm going to relive me past.
Yeah. He's actually heading up the coaching over for On Down Under, On Athletic Club Down Under. I don't know if that's the actual name for it, but the On Pro Group that's based in Australia. He's the coach over there, so doing well now. And I don't know if we're shooting jumping the shark here by saying that is where a prominent New Zealand 1500 meter runner is heading to further his career. I don't know if that's controversial news to break. I don't think it is. So I think we're fine. Connect the dots on that one. Anyway, moving forward, some other stuff that's going on in the world of track and field. Shane, Femke Bol. We've spoken a lot about Femke. Obviously, the big transition from the 400 hurdles to the 800.
I get another freaking text from any of these bozos saying, she can run 156. I'm like,
8th of February in Metz, France is going to be her debut 800 meters. Let's talk about that one. You tell me what you think she's going to run. I got a hot tip from the Ayatollah of 800 meter running coaching, Justin Rinaldi, on what he thinks she might run. I will reveal that after we go through our analysis of her debut. So what do you think is going to happen in this one?
Oh, Kerr asked me the other day on our chat. I said 202. He was sort of flabbergasted. I thought she was going to run that slow, but I pointed out to him before this sort of halcyon era, and I saw Roisin Willis ran 157.9. Some British girl I'd never heard of ran 157.3. Before this sort of rewriting of the sort of new normal of indoor track in the times, it was very standard for like an Archie Wilson to run around 2 minutes in Millrose and all.
Yep, 201
for a long, long time. So
202.
To me, she's adjusting. And I'm not close to it, so I don't have a clue. But
right.
I'm usually more bullish about, for example, I predicted this Ruthe could run 349. He could run 350. It wouldn't shock me. But we've seen it all before with like hurdlers or, dare I say it, milers running the steeplechase and big predictions made. So I just don't want to be the guy who bucks the trend and goes, oh, this is different. And then you're just sitting there again like a twat. So yeah, I don't know. I can't put any stock into it. If she comes out and runs 158, then I might get on the bandwagon and go, okay, she's different. But I just can't get behind it.
I love it. You're so irreverent. You're actually pissed off about it. I love it.
No, I'm not pissed off, but I just get sick of getting these messages. Oh, she's 6. I'm like, I don't want to waste 15 minutes of my life arguing with you why I don't agree. So I just go, yeah, no.
Are these some Rick James texts as well? Did you get those?
No, Rick's been good. Rick's been pretty. He's golfing quite well actually. Rick, it's a pretty good rounds. Yep, yeah, I think he shot. Yeah, no, I think he had a score difference of about 20 odd for his last 2 rounds.
All right.
Yeah, maybe he's been in the wind tunnel.
Must have been practicing the putting, the short game, maybe.
Maybe one for Rick, but I've had 4 or 5 from him, people I won't name, and nothing, all in good in good nature and good spirits. They probably think I don't really, other than law and track and field, I'm not really interested in a whole lot of other things. Trying to play my guitar, which it's not really relatable. So probably, Shane will be interested in this. I'm like,
I mean, I'm still interested in it. I mean, it's not going to change the landscape of track and field. I mean, I'm not quite as long-term bullish on her. I think she's eventually going to be a good 800 runner. I'm not sure if she's going to be, some people talking about the world record and she's going to be the first to run under 153, which I think is just outlandish. I think this is a big race for her because I agree with you. I think if she comes out and runs 203 or 204, which is unlikely, but it could be possible because you just never know what it's like racing a different distance till you actually get out there and have to do it on the track and the pressure of performing. I think that doesn't necessarily bode well, but I think I'm a little bit more bullish on her chances in this one. I think she's going to break 2 minutes. I don't think it's going to be like a 156 or a 157. It's not going to be what we've just seen, Willis run, or what we're probably going to see tomorrow in Millrose. It's not going to be quite that fast, but I think she'll run quite quick. What do you think Ronaldo's prediction was for her? He's not going to mind me saying this. He's a Track Stitch honorary contributor. 158.2 is what he told me. That's what he thinks she's going to run. I'm not quite sure but then again, this guy I mentioned, he's the tycoon of 2 laps, the Ayatollah of the 800 meters. Does he have a lot more gossip in terms of what she's been training? Maybe. I'm not sure. He's got his ear to the ground, that character.
No, that's his thing. He's a professional coach, so
it's true.
He's not
a professional podcaster like us.
The other thing, though, that just to give it some perspective, say she runs 159 or whatever.
Yeah.
That Izzy Boffield I've never heard of, and I saw some tidbits around the fact she hadn't trained a lot or done a lot of aerobic stuff. She's finally started doing some training other than just track sessions. She ran well, but no disrespect to her, but I don't think she's the next coming of Keeley. The way she moves, she's not bad. She beat Roisin Willis. I always say Roisin Willis by half a second. Roisin Willis ran American record 157.9. Roisin Willis is she's not particularly graceful mover, but she's obviously intelligent. She went to Stanford. She's well put together. She's been awesome since she was 13 or 12. She's a really good athlete. She's not a Keeley. She's not even, dare I say it, a Georgia Hunter Bell in terms of, I don't know if she's a 155 or 154 athlete, but she's a very good runner. She is the next cut after a Keeley or a Georgia Hunter Bell. She's not In fact, I can't put Keely and George Hanneman in the same things. You got your Keely, you got your the artist formerly known as Athing Mu. Then you've got the next kind of tier, which is like your Georgia Hunter belt. But she's, I think, a rung or two below, say, a Georgia Hunter belt. But she's running 157.9 indoors.
Yeah.
Early season. So even if Femke Bol runs well and runs 158 mid, high, 159 low, it's good. Put it this way: what if Keely goes? I'm going to go and run and forget Sydney for a moment. I'm going to go run the 400 hurdles. Would people be going, "Oh, she's going to"?
I know.
A chance to
or maybe the 15. Maybe the 15 would be a better one.
Yeah,
and was like, that means we'd be predicting her to run like 3:55 or something.
Yeah,
that'd be the kind of equivalent.
Bobby said that Moo was going to run the 8:15 double in LA.
Well, I'm not sure if she'll be running any double in LA. No. She might run to the grocery store twice a day when she's watching it on the telly, but that's about it. Right. Yeah. No, I know it's going to be interesting. I am interested in this one. Just as somebody deeply interested in the 800 meters like you do. But yeah, I think again, I'm in between you and Justin. I'm the meat and the sandwich, favorite position. Yeah, I think she's going to break 2 minutes, but I don't think it'll be quite as low as that. I think there's got to be a little bit of feeling out period. I don't know how good quality I think the meet record there might be 159, so it's not like a traditionally big time, indoor meet. That's probably why she wants to start off there. But yeah, I'll split you guys on that one.
I just think it's unfair of people too. I mean, even Justin, Steve knows a lot more than we do, like predicting 158 too. I mean, what's that equivalent in intuitively for me for guys? If someone came from the 4 hurdles and then went out and ran 145 mid, or you'd be damn impressed, even though it's a long way off, say, competing to being the best in the world. But you'd be, if a 400 hurdler went out
Carsten Warholm
indoors, and ran 145, 43 or something.
Yeah.
Damn impressed with that. You'd think that is a great start, because we know how hard it is for the body to adapt,
Yes.
And so what, you're expecting her to come out and be in the one Carsten equivalent, to come out and run the 143s? See it.
Yeah. All right, we digress. Moving forwards. One of our favourite middle distance runners of recent years, the great Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Obviously a very difficult season last year for him. His back training. I mean, it's really interesting. I'm seeing all these analysis on message boards of his training data, and people are saying, oh my gosh, it doesn't look like he's doing as much training as he heard again, etc., etc. I still see him running on his treadmill inside in his bloody Alpha Flies. I don't know why he does this. I did a little piece like a long time ago on a solo pod about why it was ridiculous that he runs so much in these high stack super shoes in training. I don't know what he's doing it on a treadmill for. I just saw that. I'm like, oh my God, stop it. That's the last thing you want to do coming back from an Achilles injury. Some comments from Jakob here in the press of late. What do you think about these ones? The first one we chatted about just briefly before the show came on air. This one, Jakob, considering how good a shape I was at the Olympics, I think 9 times out of 10 I would have won the 1500 meters, he says. And this was the 10th. If I had done anything differently, I think it would have had a better outcome. Interesting comment. What do you think?
The stats say 1 out of 5 times the last global championships he's won.
Yeah.
That's 2 out of 10, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it was the first of those 5. So it's 4 in a row.
Yeah.
It's getting worse because he was meddling in the others. Yeah.
Just an interesting, I mean, without getting into too much psychoanalysis on this one here, it is an interesting comment. It is kind of getting to the point where it seems like he's trying to talk into existence certain things, almost like he puts these things out in the press. And, I'm a big fan of him, and we spoke earlier about how when him and Kerr were kind of having the spat at the time, similar to when Kerr and PC were having the spat at the time, that nearly ended in a fisticuffs. Just kidding. That I sort of sided with Jakob on that one there. I thought maybe he was being a little bit more kind of mature with the comments, but he's kind of, I guess the goodwill is running dry a little bit here. I hate that comment. I think it's a lame comment, and it kind of sounds like he's almost in a difficult place himself psychologically and trying to use these gymnastics to pull out of it, because I just don't know why you would say that. And Hocker had a great reply to that, didn't he?
Yeah, Hocker's reply was just like, I don't think anyone was going to beat me that day.
Yeah, and I mean...
And they didn't, so he can say it.
Exactly.
And they didn't say anything more than that.
Yeah, that's a perfect response.
I mean, and I wasn't quite, you were much more on Jakob's side, and not that we really talked about it at great lengths with Kerr sort of sounding off, but tell you what, it makes me think a little bit, rebalances my opinion a little bit about that, because it was sort of Kerr's comments were easy to pour scorn on, because they right. sort of wrapped you up the wrong way, the way he presented them. But in this case, Hocker has done absolutely nothing that I've heard of to rile Jakob into action.
Right.
And it is pretty disrespectful to Hocker to be like, but just for Hocker to show he was so above it by going, care, like, I don't know about that, and then just move on was really mature. And Hocker, to me, is he's a cool dude. He looks like quite his own sort of man, a bit unusual. He doesn't drink the Kool-Aid, but he gets on with his life. He really impressed me the way he absolutely stuffed that chance at his double up. You didn't hear any scuttlebutt or poor me.
It's true.
Yeah, and he just got on and he went out and did answered or responded in the best way you possibly can by leading with his actions, and won the 5K, and then now he's getting on with it. So it's great. Yeah,
no, I agree, and not a lot of social media presence from Hocker. If anything does get released, it's kind of like way after the fact. It's like, oh, here we go. Here's a clip of training that I did 4 weeks ago, and you're like, oh, yeah, great. I mean, I told you at the time with Tokyo, when Jakob turned up, filming his entrance, walking through the arrival gate, and basically asking the fans, what kind of content do you want to see? I'm like, this is going to go badly for him, this championship. He's not, there was a lot of talk at the time. Is he actually going to be in shape? Would he just come out on track and destroy these guys because he's fresh and whatever? I'm like, nah, there's something else going on here. No, I don't like that comment either. I mean, and it's a great comment from Hocker, because as we know, he clearly could have won that race. He could have won that race by even more. Right? I mean, he got lucky at the end of the day because Jakob let him through on the inside, and maybe if that hadn't happened, but that would have been a classic case of just maybe by far the best runner in the race that on that particular day. I wouldn't say by far, but the best guy in that race may not have won, but he did. And the fact that he did it in that manner, I just don't like that comment from Jakob. And here's the other one. What do you think about this one? This was potentially, I think this was maybe a week before that last one. My goals are to get the double gold at the Euro Championships, a Diamond League final victory. None of those are too outlandish. He's done all those things before. But how about this one? Make one good world record attempt in the 1500, the mile, and the 5,000 meters. Now that would be big time to have a world record attempt at the 1500, the mile, and the 5K. I was going to ask you, Jakob is the closest thing to Say Awita that we've seen in recent history. Obviously, Awita was the world record holder over 1500 and the 5K simultaneously. We probably won't have that situation ever again. Certainly not now that the record over the 5K is so deep into the 1230s, and we've talked about how one of the it's not a total prerequisite, but the 5,000 meter record holder has been also the 10,000 meter world record at the same time.
Yep.
Man, for a guy coming back from Achilles, like basically losing an entire season, what do you think about those comments? Do you think he's got any chance to break all those world records in 1 year? And I think the bigger question is, if he tries it, at what cost? I don't see how you can possibly get fit and in the shape to run 325 point, basically 342 point in the mile, and then under 1235.
It's a bit like with Sam Ruthe, though. It's you need to be, or I don't mean you, but I mean we need to be perhaps wary or not too quick to impute normal levels of expectation or judgment onto. I mean, he ran 7:17. What 18 months ago?
Yeah,
7:17. Like, and there was a lot of
good.
that era over the 1500 and the videos you've showed me with El Garouge's 3:26. I mean, it's pretty incontrovertible evidence that it wasn't 3:26.00. I mean, it's a moot point because he ran what 3:26.12
in Brussels. Yeah.
But that era was they had no EPO test to 2000, and I know he ran quicker after 2000. Around that after 2000, what did he run? 3:26. Is it 3 or 4?
The 1-2 was in Brussels. That was in 01. And then he also ran he had that crazy race in Reti where he went through in 2:44.7 and ran also sub 3:27. But yeah.
But he ran, Jakob? 3:26.73. He ran 7:17. He won the Olympics when he was 20. He's won the Olympic 5,000 and the World Champs 5,000 at an absolute doddle. If there's anyone, yes, but it's what's more, I think, illuminating / concerning is how the behaviour has gone from kind of slightly irreverent, Kerr can say what he wants and just just smash everyone, to a bit more kind of like letting it like the talking is the action now rather than the performance. And then you turn up at World Champs and was a shadow, obviously, because he hasn't shadow of himself because he hasn't been able to train. So I don't really know what to make of it. I'll tell you one thing. Well, most people in life, myself included, probably you included, we do something for a bit, we get a bit of success, we get a bit of money, and then we like a bit of comfort, and our life kind of almost unconsciously goes in a sort of normal peaks, troughs, and twists and turns. Your Michael Jordans, your Lance Armstrong, LeBron James, your Haile Gebrselassie, these guys that are able to maintain their place on top of Mount Rushmore throughout their careers. There's something unusual or unnormal about having the desire to keep trying to crush everyone for a prolonged period. It's almost you could almost say it's what's the word, psychotic, or it's a sort of almost antisocial disconnect between sort of giving yourself the space to enjoy.
Tiger Woods, number one on that list.
Yeah, you've almost got to be a bit sort of not dare I say, not quite right. Perhaps he's going through that with the terrible situation with the father, which ironically maybe pushed him to that level.
Yeah,
he's got a lovely young wife, first kid. I'm sure he's got lots of money for a 25-year-old.
Dogs.
Got the dogs, got the and also, could you imagine like the pressure release have the trial with the dad and all that? Also, he didn't really get what he wanted out of that from the sounds of that trial. Like, it was sort of a bit of a slap on the wrist for Gert. I mean, there's a lot going on in that. That's a story in and of itself, forgetting he's one of the greatest, if not the greatest, middle distance runner, definitely the best modern one that's ever lived. It's a lot going on in that story alone with the family. That would be a documentary, even if he was an average runner. This kid beating him. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not too quick to judge, but if you ask me what I think, I maintain what I said 6 months ago when we talked about it. Do I think he will benefit from the perfect storm, so to speak, of factors that come to see him continue to push on as a 7:17 runner? Probably not.
Yeah. No, yeah. I think just with that comment, I'm not offended by it. I don't think it's disrespectful in respect. I would say I'm concerned. I'm concerned for him. I just think that that is a really, really big task now, especially where those records are at. We talked just a few minutes ago about how Oita was a 1:43 runner, a 3:29 runner, and a 12:58 runner. And he held the world record over 1,505K. And he was, I don't know if did he hold the mile record at any point in the same time? I know he ran that 3:46 performance in Berlin, but maybe Cram had already had the world record at 3:26.3.
Co was the 3:47.33. I think.
Yes, down to 43.
46. Yeah.
46, that's right. Yeah, you're right. So Oida never had that mile record. So, I mean, that would be a historical thing to do. But again, those records were just they're just different to what they are now. They're so much more difficult now. I just don't see how physically it's just too much of a task to get in that kind of shape to be able to do the 1500, the mile, and the 5K all in one season. And it's not even like will he do it or will he not? It's just the fact that if he coming off a season where he's lost an entire year to injury, right? To come back and like that's your re-intro into the sport is like I'm going to try and run again 325 point, 342 point in the mile, and then 1234 point in the 5K. I don't understand that.
But it's a bit like what you said about Craig Mottram sort of poo-hooing bowling the cricket ball at 150. He's probably always thought, in fact, I'm sure he's always thought all these things. But maybe, the fact of sort of putting them out there maybe belies the fact he doesn't really believe them.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like if you look at Raymond Poulidor in the Tour de France, Jan Ulrich, it's very rare for someone to be bridesmaid. I know Al Garouge lost that 2000 following trip to 96, but he won all the world champs in between. It's very rare to be a bridesmaid for a long, long time in an event, and then somehow, as you're getting older and the competition is getting better, come back and win, like say a 1500 world title.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Hey, that was a great podcast, mate. That was awesome. I really enjoyed that one. Like that's what we're here to do. We just take topics, ramble on about them, take them apart, offer the stats that nobody else, the stats and insight that nobody else does.
Give the stars of our sport unsolicited advice.
Yes. And
I think it's probably like giving us too much credit for our place in the world if you ever get a snarky email from some runner going, oi.
That would be amazing, actually. I'd love that. But pay homage to the greats of yesteryear as well. I really enjoyed that, talking about Mottram. We don't talk about him enough because, it was kind of like, I wouldn't say it's that theory we had on, what was the theory that I had with Morcelli and Al Garouge? How we just don't really look at Morcelli in the same light because Al Garouge came along and basically just, literally beat him on the track, took his records all in a short period of time. I think with Mottram, we sort of don't do that either because he kind of disappeared off the very, very quickly, considering how bright his star was burning in sort of 05, 06. It just shows how difficult it was even for an amazing athlete like him to maintain it. He was still a great athlete through and through.
I agree with you. And I was thinking that as well before we did the podcast when you said we're going to talk about Buster. I don't think it's any. I don't think it's at all unfair to Craig to say that Nick Willis had the better career in terms of how long he was around.
For sure.
Yeah, and to win Olympic rather than world champs medals. But I will say that pound for pound, I think that world champs 5,000 medal, given the quality of those guys in that race and the delta hitherto, that race, the delta between the white guys and the Africans in the 5,000 had become an enormous gulf. And to actually do that in a championship, when you talked about how these Africans, their ability to frenetically up their ante in the last lap or two, and a lot of that comes from that you hear these anecdotal stories about them training on the dirt roads and they're ratcheting up like 2:30 for the last K quite frequently on easy. Like, they'll just ramp it up the hills and all that. They've got that athleticism that the white athletes historically don't have. Like Cole Hocker has it, but not many white athletes. So to do that, I think pound for pound was the better at that, and beating Bakili the way he did. I think Willis didn't have performances at that level, but Nick's career in terms of how long he was around, the fact he was able to stay a pro for a long time, the money I'm assuming he made out of it, and that relevance in terms of being around for that long and being in the hunt and getting those Olympic medals. Nick had the better career. I hate to say it, but he did. But Buster was a legend who's perhaps, for those reasons we just outlined, has fallen out of our consciousness more than, say, Nick Willis.
Yeah. No, and again, just doubling back quickly, that 5,000 meters is one of the most underrated performances either. It kind of like re-broke the seal so to speak. And it was it was just a big belief thing that he could do it. And then again, to come back that year later at that World Cup and beat Bekele when everybody thought that Bekele was basically unbeaten. Not many. In fact, honestly, look at the guys that beat Bekele on the track over the course of his career, and it's like Eliud Kipchoge, it's Hisham El Garouge, and it's Craig Mottram.
Yeah.
That's pretty elite. So shout out to Mottram, sort of a little bit underappreciated in what he meant for distance running, and certainly what we're seeing now with such parity in amongst Western athletes and the Africans. So yeah, this was fun. It was great to pay homage to one of the greats, especially from down under. All right. Well, mate, I'm going to go and deal with a faulty pressure valve on the old hot water heater. I'm back in Portland for 4 days, and I go downstairs and there's a big puddle of water under the hot water, the heater. So I got to figure that out.
Very good.
You golfing this weekend?
I'll tell you about my round off the air because you're going to find it very funny.
Okay.
Yeah, that was good.
All right, meaty. All right, and we'll check out this Terrier Invite meet, which is starting in about just over an hour, and that should be good. And then Millrose tomorrow, and we'll catch you back here in a week's time for the best, most organic people's analysis.
Pumping ourselves up.
No, I know, doing the mental gymnastics, speaking it into existence.
Very good,
mate. Awesome.
Right, mate.
Have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
See ya.
Okay, back on the Track Stitch podcast for an emergency update. Shono and I have developed a little bit of a habit for recording the podcast, and then as soon as we go off air, an incredible performance or series of performances happen within a matter of minutes. We did it last week with the New Balance Indoor Grand Prix. The 800-meter world record was broken, and also the 2,000-meter indoor world record was broken. And I'm pleased to say we've done it again here because Shano is back home with his feet up on the couch. I was just sitting at the kitchen island with a little espresso. The BU Terrier Invite meet was on, and Sam Ruthe has just run 3:48.88 for the mile. Sam Tanner was also in the field, had a few difficulties. I think he got clipped maybe on the lower leg, it appeared, stepped off the track after 400 meters, so bad luck for Sam Tanner there. However, Sam Ruthe goes on to run 3:48.88 to win the race over Peter Sisk, very accomplished performer in his own right. Wow, this is just an incredible performance. Hard to put into context how good this is for a young 16-year-old. This is a New Zealand record. It's an open record. This is faster than John Walker's 3:49.08 mile that was run all the way back in 1982, I believe, at the Bislett Games there behind Steve Scott. Ray Flynn was behind him. So obviously this performance was run indoors. Walker's was run outdoors. I'm not sure if they still make a distinction between the two. Either way, this is the fastest 1,609 meters that has ever been run by a New Zealander, and it's been run by a 16-year-old New Zealander. Man, just incredible. The way I saw this, but couldn't actually watch it. I was trying to find a stream for Flow Track, and I couldn't find one. And basically, I was just doing the old classic refreshing through the results, and I honestly, my eyes nearly exploded out of my cranium when I saw 3:48.88 pop up. I thought it must have been a typo or something. Just an incredible performance. We were talking on the podcast, kind of making predictions. We thought that maybe he's going to run sort of around 3:52. Between 3:51.8, I think I said, and then we mentioned that Cam Myers thought he could run under 3:50 for a mile. Considering that this was his first race in the US, just jumped off the plane a few days ago, this is just an incredible performance. So a few numbers here, just put these together. The 11th fastest indoor mile ever run. That is just unbelievable. 1/100th of a second behind a man by the name of Josh Kerr. You may have heard of him. Former world 1,500 meter champion, multiple time medalist in major events, the silver medalist from Paris in 2024. Oh, and he's also run under 3:28 for 1,500 meters. So Sam now sits only 1/100th of a second behind him on the all-time indoor list. This performance only 0.43 seconds behind the great Hicham El Guerrouj, the outdoor world mile record holder. Now, LG didn't really focus that much on the indoor sort of disciplines, but still, Sam only 0.43 seconds behind him. Before 2019, so this is only 7 years ago, this performance from Sam would have been the second fastest performance in history, only behind El Guerrouj. So that's kind of just putting this into context. Now, there was supposed to be a 1,500 meter split given, but it doesn't look like they came up on the results. However, they were taking them at every 200 meter point from the start-finish line. So Sam was 320.5 through 1409 meters. And then, of course, they got his time at 1609, 348.88. I roughly worked out that for that particular split, it was about a 28.2 second 200 meters. So that works out just over 7 meters per second. So for those 91 meters to get us up to 1,500 meters, I got about 12.8 seconds. So that gives an implied sort of on route time of 3:33.37, which is just absolutely incredible in its own right. Man, where else do we go here? The best time for a US 16-year-old ever in the mile, I believe, just doing a little bit of research, 4:01.34. That's okay. Sam is now about 12.5 seconds faster than the fastest ever American. And this is a very good country with a very deep history of elite miling. He's about 12.5 seconds faster than the best American 16-year-old ever. This is a world record for someone of his age. You know, they were talking about Cam Myers, I believe 355.4 as being a world best for 16-year-olds a mile. This is clearly way under that. Oh, and by the way, Cam Myers was the indoor world leader over the mile. Not anymore. That is now Sam Ruthe, 3:48.88. New Zealand record. We'll see how that stacks up, whether they actually count this in terms of the outdoor time. That just seems like a mere formality now. He just needs to get into an outdoor race. But man, for the first race coming up, fresh off the plane, yeah, is just incredible. It seems like I've got a lot to say, but again, I'm still kind of a little bit disoriented in a daze over what we witnessed. This is one of the great performances, so congratulations to Sam. Obviously, congratulations to Ben and to Craig, his coach, as well. Just an incredible performance. Oh, and on top of that, as if that wasn't good enough in terms of performances by Kiwis, this one just coming too. James Harding ran 1:46.83. He beat Elliot Cook and Matthew Erickson. These are teammates of his at the University of Oregon. So James Harding, I think he New Zealand record holder before Sam, for 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds. He ran under 1:48 there. Obviously, that's been extinguished by the books and had a few sort of quiet seasons dealing with injury in Oregon, but he looks like he's back because that's an incredible performance at the Razorback Invite, 1:46.83. Again, those two names I mentioned, why are they significant? Elliot Cook, well, he is second place getter at the NCAA 1,500 meter championships back in 2024, so he's a very distinguished performer over 1,500 meters. Matthew Erickson, second place at the NCAA championships last year, 2025, over 800 meters. So things looking really good for James Harding there, so congratulations to him. But just thought I'd come in for a really quick update. As you can probably tell, pretty excited about this one. Just an incredible performance again. I know I've said that literally 4 or 5 times. I just cannot get over that performance from Sam Ruthe and just how incredible it is. 3:48.88. 3:48.88. He is now the world leader in the mile. He is now the 11th fastest human being in history over that discipline, and he has just taken the great John Walker out of the record books for New Zealand. So that's all I've got to really say about this one. Fantastic performance, super excited, and yeah, we'll just tack this on to the end of the podcast, but just thought this definitely deserved a little bit of coverage considering what an amazing performance it was. All right, so thanks a lot. We will catch you back next week. It'll be Shano and I just yarning about probably what happens at Millrose and a bunch of other stuff and probably another amazing Sam Ruthe performance too. All right, guys, have a good one, and we'll catch you next time.